Are you excited? I've heard more excitement before, so I think you need to try a little bit harder. Are you excited? That feels good. Before we start, I have to make a small correction. I've been informed that the finals will now be played as a best of 5. Okay? Good. Please give the warmest welcome possible for the master, LG IEM MVP. And his opponent from Poland, Acer Nerchio. You ready? Good luck, have fun. Day 9 and Kalaris, own it up.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jarrett. Am I on the mic? There we go. Thank you very much, Jarrett, on the main stage. Welcome to the casting desk here for the Intel Extreme Masters Gamescom final, the grand final. It's all been leading up to this. All those open brackets, all those group stages, that final bracket as well. And indeed, it will be that best of 5, Day 9.
Yeah, that was our bad. We thought it was a best of 7, and we commentators like to make sure everyone is up to date on everything. We repeated it throughout the entire tournament to arrive here and be wrong. So excellent. The fortunate news is that it couldn't be a more exciting final. It's Nerchio who just seems to be on a tear in the last few months, destroying everyone in his path. I mean, Tastosis mentioned that he hadn't gone to Korea yet, but all the times that he's been in those major tournaments, like the Home Story Cup, like all those online cups, like here right now at Gamescom, he has looked unstoppable.
Yes, he has indeed, with a 66% win ratio in this matchup. He's going to be going into this best of 5 after defeating the likes of Puma 2-0, 4GG 2-0 here in those group stages. Not only that, but prior to this, in other tournaments, he's been able to beat Pult 3-1 at the Gigabyte Nvidia Cup, as well as people like Lucifron 2-1, who, again, you know, I wouldn't normally bring up the name Lucifron, but because he's had such a fantastic practice partner in Vortex, he's very, very formidable.
And it looks like the countdown has begun. Game 1 is going to be on ESV Ohana. It's going to be so good. A nice, tight map to start things off with. Very narrow, easy to do mech, easy to do bio. All's possible. Game 1 has now begun. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for the grand finals? Well, that's very good to hear.
Lovely, lovely stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, spawning up in the top left-hand corner here as our blue Terran, with a cumulative earnings of over $300,000 US in Starcraft 2. Give it up for LGIM's MVP!
For so long, the Zerg Stefano has been heralded as the best foreigner out there, and maybe it's time for that to change. If you'd like to see a stunning run from the man from Poland, give a cheer for Acer's Nerchio!
A lot of guys liking Nerchio here, a lot of girls as well. Don't want to exclude you guys. Although then I said guys then, and then it was completely ruined. But anyway, on Ohana here, MVP throughout this tournament has, interestingly enough, gone into this, well, he's making it interesting from the very get-go, without a doubt. But he has been able to take so many wins off so many good Zerg players. He's gone up against Targa even 2-1, and he went 4-1 in groups, going 3-1 against both Slivko and Vortex in that final bracket. Now, what's interesting to note is that in his past TVZ series is that every single time he always drops a map. There's been very, very few series right now where he goes like, I don't know, 2-0 or 3-0. He always ends up losing one map.
Oh, gosh.
Uh-oh.
Nerchio misses it completely. MVP is going to start off with a nice edge, but if you're Nerchio, you're going to wander up here. You're going to see very few SCVs, sees no expansion. Nerchio has built up to 15 drones, now throwing down the spawning pool. And that is true. I mean, he does go 2-1 in a lot of his series, but more importantly from MVP, we're seeing different builds come out of him in all these series. We haven't really seen this at all. This entire tournament's been dominated by Heli and Banshee, but MVP has used a full gamut of Terran play.
It almost just seems as if he saved it for this moment. It's as if he's always known he was going to be able to get here and then brings it out right at the fiery end. So LGIM MVP now going to be pulling back with this one drone. Does he see the second? I don't think he's seen it. Now he does see the second drone, SCV coming across here. One Marine now poking forwards against that drone, and he's going to have to pull a lot of drones, and indeed he is doing.
He pulls all but 2. Nerchio is in total crisis mode. He does not want to have any threat to his early expansion get in the way, and we see those drones out at front battling. Already we see 2, 3 might go down. No, man, just to pull that one back at the last second. And Nerchio's actually broke. He's out of money. He only has 4 Zerglings. This is an unusually bad defense from Nerchio.
Oh, he's going to try and get us surrounded. He does pin those Marines back against the edge, but at the same time, there's still a bunker on the way. He needs to be able to bring down that SCV. And again, he does have that spine crawler going up, so he really needs that up here with the defense of the Zerglings as well in order to be able to stifle MVP right now.
And he does get 1, 2 Marines there. A decent exchange, but the real problem has been that Nerchio has absolutely no queens. His economy is in tatters. I mean, MVP is not playing this like 4GG would. 4GG was doing a lot of overcommitting, a lot of excess bunkerage, but here, wow, MVP is actually at 14 SCVs.
Oh, and look at this. He's adding on sneaky barracks elsewhere. He's building a barracks right in the middle of the map here to be able to continue this pressure. So he's made it look as if he's abandoned this plot. He's not actually having any Marines reinforced for now, but he's actually going to continue this aggression. And this is what you've always got to be very, very careful about in the Zerg's shoes. The constant aggression as opposed to the expansion going down.
Nerchio's well aware that something's up. He has this one Overlord over by the expansion. Is going, why on earth is there no expand down yet? The answer is that MVP is all in. I think MVP was in a decent position to pull back and expand, but now he's actually trying to commit, K-Lars.
Yeah, and even, I mean, with this ban, he wants to hide the barracks in the middle of, I guess it's kind of hidden. It's hidden at least from Overlords that could have been over there to try and spot it. So now he's going to be able to reinforce even quicker, as well as giving him that little edge of how many is there. But still, as you rightly pointed out, Nerchio knows something's up. He's got 10 Zerglings on the way, and he's transferred so many of his drones down to the natural to be able to use them to buffer just in case that extra push comes.
Is he actually going to build another spine? Oh, Spider Sense is just working so well for Nerchio. He's gradually adjusting everything. Oh, wait, no extra spine.
SCVs, Day 9, they're on the way.
Oh, my God, Nerchio. Is he going to build around a Lings?
He sees all the Marines. He sees it with one lane, and now
12 Zerglings in production. 1 spine crawler also in production. And here comes the huge torrent of units.
Oh, there's so many Zerglings still here. He pumps up all those drones. He's going to try and drone drill as he does get through the SCVs.
Great drone drill by Nerchio.
He's going to get a perfect surround on these Marines. Going to be able to shut it down, I feel, here. There's 2 more spines still up and running. The Zerglings pile out here. He's lost all of the SCVs he had during all of this. He only has 6 left at home, but there's still only 10 drones here for Nerchio.
Nerchio needs to get the Queen involved in there. In this exchange, it's still very even, and MVP's looking for a window. He's trying to push this backside.
I like this little poke in here from MVP, trying to traverse any kind of armor that would come along here from Nerchio. Right now, the Zerglings sacrificing themselves a little bit, trying to get some more DPS out. There's not that many Marines left over here, but he's still able to produce 4 at a time thanks to those mules going down, as well as those 10 SCVs. And the Queen will end up almost falling. There it goes.
It's so close. It's 16 supply to 18. And right now, there's only 4 SCVs and a mule at the back. And I think Nerchio knows it. I think he's just going to be building Zerglings perhaps out of the main. Oh, my God. Oh, this is looking very bad for MVP.
Oh, he's even got actually a few more drones in production. Nerchio feels a bit comfortable here. Right now, there's a few more Marines gathering at the front, but is it really going to be enough to break this with the Zerglings constantly being...
And Nerchio rides out to meet him, but there's plenty more Marines where that came from. Nerchio realizing he's not out of the thick of things yet. A Queen would certainly make him feel a lot more comfortable, but MVP is able to build those Marines 4 at a time still.
Yeah, still got more Zerglings in production here. He realizes how much of a threat these Marines are after pushing out and losing a few of his links. So a slight overstep there by Nerchio, but he still has this spine crawler, and he throws down a second spine crawler here. If he is able to get this up and running before MVP actually pushes in, he could continue to be able to hold.
This is such a close battle. But the fact of the matter is the mining is going a little bit faster for Nerchio, and he's slowly getting more spines. And here comes the big push.
Going to try and poke in here, trying to mag throw back and forth against this spine crawler. He's going to be able to get a lot of damage on it. Microing back now. The Zerglings don't have that spine crawler to be able to aid them. Constantly poking back and forth here, MVP. And realistically, this is very, very difficult for Nerchio to deal with.
And he cancels it at the last second. That spine crawler finishes up, but it looks like MVP able to control his Marines a little bit too well. Nerchio got too over eager, was not building enough Zergling defense, and now MVP might be able to just overrun the front, but Nerchio has a lot of Ling drone coming up.
Oh, he does. That's a lot of damage he needs to do to be able to kill off those Lings and those drones. Right now, microing back as best he can do, but there's no income behind this for MVP. So once these Marines actually die off, he's not got anything else to be able to continue this. Nerchio is able to hold the aggression for now.
Oh my God, Nerchio. Nerchio looks like he's going to go all the way. No, first he's going to play it safe, make sure one bunker lifts. He continues to run into packs of Marines that are patrolling up. Nerchio's not taking any risks. He's now moving these 4 Zerglings all the way to the right. Is there any way MVP can come out of this all-in state?
Oh, I love those Zerglings that he's sending around. He wants to move those around to the back of his opponent's base. But actually, look at this. MVP sending his Marines back here to be able to defend from that kind of thing. So he's reading Nerchio so well here, as those Zerglings are not going to be able to do anything.
Is MVP... Oh my God.
Where's he going? Oh, why is he? Oh my God, the perfect little luck timing here for Nerchio. Those Lings are going to get in, and there's not much SCVs here at all. They're going to be so vulnerable, Sean.
Oh my God, MVP was starting to set himself up to pull out of the all-in, but this is it, walking right on up. See you later, Mules. MVP is in a world of trouble.
Yes, he's going to push forwards with these Marines once again. There's actually drones and 2 spine crawlers still up here for Nerchio. These Marines, I don't think, are going to be able to do anything, as the entire infrastructure, well, potentially an income here is shut down.
GG! Nerchio with a little grin after an intense game 1 is up after only actually 13 minutes of gameplay. That's one of the longest all-ins I've ever seen.
He had like 5 SCVs for 13 minutes, basically. Oh, MVP has got to be kind of tilted after that. I mean, of course, it's MVP. He is the best player in the world. He's always able to bring that little kind of poke forwards with that very early aggression. But MVP going into this series, he's been setting the entire tournament up for this. He hasn't done this at all during the entire tournament. Then he brings that forward into this last best of 5 in the grand finals, hoping it's able to get him that little lead, that 1-0 lead going into it to make it give him a little cushion. But Nerchio reacting so well, controlling it so well, bringing those drones down to his natural to be able to buffer once that aggression comes. Really nice play there from our foreigner.
Yeah, I mean, Nerchio is the sort of guy who you see do these brilliant things in standard straight-up games, control those final armies really well, but that game right there is why his win rate is at 70% instead of at 60%. Every type of cheese that he seems to be up against, he knows exactly when to drone, exactly when to keep making those spine crawlers. I mean, you can't emphasize enough how hard it is to do that cheese defense. So I want to throw it to Tastosis to talk a little bit about how Nerchio is able to pull that off.
Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to go ahead into this replay in just a second, but first get on Twitter and hashtag IEM Patriot if you want to win some awesome memory sticks and USB stuff as well. So go ahead, tell us why you think you deserve to win it, because if it's not a good enough reason, I'm just going to take them all home. So we're going to go ahead into this replay now. We have it exactly where we want it. A crazy game, man. I can't believe it went that long. But I guess, you know, the most important part to talk about is when the SCVs came, because that's when he fully just, I mean, this is the king of all committals, when you bit by bit prime him. So let's take a look at this. We're actually going to slow it down a little bit and show. Now, the SCV is doing a good job here, but if he had them spread out a little bit more and maybe block this all back there, that could have helped a lot. Notice how everything's getting by.
Yeah, you know, the placement here is really what's so important. Now, if you notice, the SCVs here hitting the spine crawler back there, not actually very useful. The function of the SCVs is to get in front of the drones, the Zerglings, because the way the game AI works is they actually just attack whatever's closest, or whatever's hitting them that's closest. So drones in this case, or excuse me, SCVs in this case, they could end up tanking a bunch of damage for those Zerglings. Didn't end up happening. Instead, they're hitting the spine crawler. This game could have looked different if you used the SCVs a little bit better.
Yeah, if they were like literally just in a line, then only the drones get through, and then by the time these SCVs have died to the Lings, the Marines have killed all the drones off. And at that point, things may spiral out of control for Nerchio. So a slight miss micro there, but there was a lot of things that happened in this game that changed it in slight little ways.
And to MVP's credit, he actually played insanely well since this deficit. I thought for a few moments he was actually going to win there.
Yeah, he almost came back. So yeah, it looks like that is about all that we can really look at for now in this replay. So
short but sweet, but that's all there was to it. We're going to go ahead and throw it back to Claris and Dana. Guys, take it away.
Thanks very much, guys, as we are going to be moving into game number 2 in just a second. ESV Cloud Kingdom here for our second map. Yeah. See, I just want more and more and more. I don't think I'm going to be able to get it from this final, but there we go. As we move on to second map now. Cloud Kingdom for MVP. Actually, now that I think about it, whenever I see MVP actually 2-racks, it's mostly on Cloud Kingdom, but I don't really think he's going to go for that again.
I mean, I will say, the difficult thing to predict about MVP is that not only does he use a wide variety of opening builds, he uses a wide variety of opening follow-ups. I mean, we see the Hellion Banshee play from a number of players, but he can follow that up with either Marine Marauder Medevac tankless play, standard Marine tank play, this increasingly less unorthodox mech play. All of it is increasingly becoming a standard mix for MVP.
So, guys, without further ado, let's jump into game number 2. As up to the top right-hand corner, spawning as our blue Zerg after a phenomenal defense in game number 1. He finds himself at the advantage. Give it up for Ace Nerchio.
And down in the bottom left, before this finals began, he asked the crowd to cheer as loud as possible for him in the finals. And if you want him to win, then let's hear it. LG IEM's MVP.
Again, Cloud Kingdom here as Nerchio. I mean, that control in game 1 is just
was absurd.
The thing that just perplexed me is the fact I was on the edge of my seat seeing those 2 extra drones being made at any given point in time whilst there was still the threat there. Nerchio holds on by the skin of his teeth and is able to get away with drone production during some of that. It's pretty impressive.
I mean, I was even so terrified right when it started because he built 4 Lings and a spine crawler, and that's it. He had no more money to do anything else, and I was convinced he was going to die right then and there, and we were going to move on to a really sad game 2, but instead, an epic match occurred, and Nerchio will be really happy to arrive at this barracks and realize, hey, no cheese.
Yeah, and this is something Nerchio does a lot, i.e. the drone scout. It's something that some players kind of forego, but it's so important because, again, you want to be able to spot that barracks, and at this point he could quite easily try and be annoying at this natural, try and block off an expansion, but for now also has to be very wary of that initial Marine, going to be able to poke out against him.
Yep, everything is as normal as can be on both sides of the court. One thing that would perhaps be considered a little unusual is that Nerchio is building his hatch slightly earlier, avoiding the drone, not going to go up to any sort of 16 tech.
It's so methodical, though, here. He had a drone scouting out the front of his base just for when the SCV was coming in to make sure it wasn't going to be throwing down any bunkers. So he really, really wants to go into this very calmly, very safely. And just another point about that drone scout is that if your opponent is by chance going command center first, then you can actually block that for quite a while. So I think that's more the point I was making about that. Because, again, barracks first, there's always going to be a Marine there to annoy.
Yeah, I like the fact that you bring up those aggressive opportunities, even for something as simple as a drone scout.
Yeah.
It's not just that it's a drone scout timing that aligns right with some major openings that the Terran player can do. And as we saw in this game, would have blocked command center first. And as we saw in last game, helped them realize that all-in was incoming.
Yep, and aside from that, MVP just sharking around with this initial SCV. doesn't really see too much. Going up to factory now for those Hellions. And with those double queens extra on the way here for Nerchio, he's going to be in good stead to be able to get that creep going and then eventually get that third hatch up. We'll see what he wants to go from there.
I'm a little curious if MVP is going to be going for a third command center first, or whether he will be going for the Hellion play. Because again, against Vortex, we saw that MVP was trying to suicide in to kill off lots of drones, and I feel like Nerchio is going to be very prepared for that. He's going to be very comfortable in that sort of situation. MVP though, if he does go for, yep, there's the Hellion or the Banshee play. I just hope that he leaves it back, because we've seen him potentially lose so many mid games just by not having those Hellions and Banshees around.
Yeah, and I mean also, again, as we pointed out, when he was going up against Vortex, his Banshees weren't really able to do too much. He wasn't able to make them pay for themselves all that well. So we'll see if MVP can actually avoid that kind of curse here in this series. For now, though, just have that Tech Lab being added on to be able to switch up with that Starport. 6 drones on the way to be able to push him up towards the lower 40s, 42 to be exact, and 28 SCVs out right now for MVP.
This is looking very similar to what we saw out of Vortex. The around 530 double gas, getting the speed, getting that third up right away. MVP is just poking to see if there's anything awry at the front, and per usual, he's going to be a little bit annoyed to see yet again Zergs are feeling ballsy with their thirds, taking them right away. Instant evolution chamber. Where is that Evo chamber? Ha! Tracked it down. We did see Vortex go for the double Evo chamber, and that made him very vulnerable, but Nerchio's much more safe and stable in those early parts of the game. And man, MVP's aggressive with his expanding.
Yeah, and look at this now. Nerchio actually being able to block the natural ramp there with that queen, helping with the creep as spread as well. 2 queens heading over to that third, and as you rightly pointed out, a very, very aggressive expansion. It's I don't really know if Nerchio is going to be able to punish this too well, to be honest with you. He's throwing down a Roach Warrant, but again, speed's not out just yet, and by the time that ends up coming along, MVP will have, you know, a pretty good idea of what's going on the map.
Yeah, MVP, yeah, killing off creep tumors, that's what I want to see. He's going up to try to kill off stuff in the natural expansion. I don't like this play unless it does massive damage. The Zerglings from Nerchio show up to the scene of the crime and immediately step into action. Looks like maybe 8 or so drones have been killed off. Nerchio doing a great job, an amazing job controlling it that last second.
Oh, wow.
And a huge loss for MVP, only killing 8 workers.
Yeah, and that gets replenished instantaneously here for Nerchio, having a wave of 8 drones whilst that was all going on. Slightly oversaturated his main, will be transferring that over to the third in just a bit here, as we have the extra evolution chamber going down for Nerchio to be able to continue preparing for that mid game and then late game. But interestingly enough, going for the melee upgrades with the Roach Warrior out, just having that Roach Warrior out just in case his opponent really continues to commit to these mechs.
More Hellion run-ins as MVP prepares a mech play. He has lots of Hellions up in the middle of the map. He has killed every single one of those drones. Now that is the harass that's more like it. Yeah. Killing off another 7, only losing 1 Hellion. And now the Cloak Banshee stepping in, going to guarantee themselves a queen kill.
Nice little pick up there for MVP. Infestation pit on the way, as well as plenty of Zerglings. Moffing and the Overseer really needs that out as the Banshees go to work on the Zergling count for a second there. And for now, I mean, Nerchio knows that there is a third here. He knows how aggressively that's been taken to a certain extent. And aside from that, these Banshees are actually doing quite a bit of damage.
Picking off so many drones. Oh my god, they are annihilating this drone line. Nerchio having sustained massive, well started with 25, 27 drones killed.
Well, the hardest thing there for Nerchio is the fact that he killed off the gas drones. Look at this, he still hasn't put them back into gas. And that's really, really an annoyance. Even going to work in this third base once again, spurring the Spore Crawler. We'll be able to fend that off for now, but he still doesn't have the guys in gas. He needs them in gas. Oh dear.
And oh my god, Nerchio is actually going to get some nice free kills here. He's going to pick off all these Marines at the front, get some kills on these SCVs, and at the third base, Nerchio runs right in, and again, MVP's greediness is punished.
There we go, he's sending a few drones into those gas geysers now, 3 into both. As aside from that, MVP just bolstering his defenses here at the third. and will be able to, you know, swing his economy nicely in his favor in just a little bit. 57 SCVs to the 67 drones. But again, once he's got that many orbital command centers, look at that, going for an extra 4th and 5th command center at the 11:30 minute mark. MVP feels very comfortable at this point.
The MVP is saying, well, if you don't have any units in the middle of the map, I will build planetary fortresses here now, so that way I can take this, and then eventually this bottom right, and then eventually this is a 6th base. And it's very important that Terran has his eye open on this one, because in an even map split situation, Mech will be way, way favored against any Zerg mechs.
Yeah, and again, it will be very interesting to see how MVP is going to expand with this mech. In which direction really is he going to expand with it? Because mech can sometimes be very immobile, as we fully well know. So if he ends up taking the 4th at the southern location or the western location, it might be very interesting. Right now we have MVP though going for this 4th base. Will be able to get the cancel on it thanks to those Banshees being there. And even cloaking to be able to ward himself against some roaches. They can't really jump too high though, so won't be able to take any damage.
A nice play right there by MVP, and also running into the natural expansion. Going to kill some drones. Can he get a big blast? He's starting to get some really high kill counts on these Hellions. Roaches do clean them up finally, but I'm almost scared to open up this tab. How many drones he killed off this game? Ugh, 43 thus far.
Yeah, somehow Nerchio has been able to build around 110 drones here at the 13-minute mark, and he's had to replenish them. Nerchio has been under fire constantly here. Meanwhile, though, he is going to be able to get that hive on the way, spire on the way here as well. So he's going to be going into that Broodlord tech to be able to complement those infestors. But MVP for now, he's getting that mech rolling. He really is.
Yeah, and against Mech, I'm not so sure how much I love the idea of going for really fast Broodlords. If the meching player has the right mixture, it's so easy to deal with. I mean, even the fact that in kind of medium econ situations, as a Zerg, you have some Zerglings, and that's about your only ground force.
Roaches do push into that 3rd, able to get a little bit of damage off there, killing off a few workers, getting a few Hellions as well. But aside from that, not too much damage there done. Oh, but I love the burrow at the 4th location with 1 roach here just to prevent him from taking that as quickly as possible. But actually, there is a Raven in production, so he's going to take that a little bit quicker, not have to waste a scan.
Now this is interesting. Generally what mech players do is they will build a few tanks, maybe 4 to 6, and then devote all the rest of their resources to Thors. As Thors are a little bit more versatile, they can deal better with the Ultralisks. But in this situation, we see MVP interestingly going for almost only tanks. I suppose he's just very concerned about a potential mass. Oh, look. Oh, taking out 1 full energy infestor.
Oh, a lovely scan there as well to be able to take out a 2nd. Mixing Banshees into mech. So viable, so potent as well. It means that you just don't... You have to take extra precautions to be able to deal with this airborne threat that is... If you don't take these small precautions, like for example having a good corruptor count to complement exactly the infestors as well as the Broodlords and stuff like that, you can take so much damage so quickly. They deal damage so fast.
And there's a nice engagement for Nerchio, just picking off a few dudes at the front. With this Banshee count present at all. Oh, a gigantic fungal growth. Blue Flame Hellions not being controlled well, getting completely surrounded. And now MVP continues to push, but this is a dangerous situation to continue to engage as MVP. He's stepping onto creep. He doesn't have any Hellions. A swell of Zerglings will kill him off, but maybe just this swell of Roaches will.
I'm curious as to where the Raven is, because he's looking to take 4th behind this, but he's going to need that there to be able to clean up what is actually present. Again, unless he wants to use a scan. Nice infested Terrans being dropped from some of those tanks.
Oh, being thrown from all angles. And we see Roaches hitting from both sides. Nerchio trying to split up. Tanks do so much damage, but Nerchio destroys this mech army with ease.
Despite a really nice PDD, he brings him down. And for now, these tanks trying to deal what they can, and the Thor being quite pesky as well. Not anything left on the ground to be able to clean that up. But he is... Oh, he even tries to land at this other location, but there's another roach here for Nerchio, taking such great precautions here against MVP.
Just fantastic play, and oh my god, do I love this double macro hatch. Is he getting the adrenal glands? No, of course not. Why would anyone ever get that upgrade?
Duh.
God, it always hurts my soul whenever someone doesn't get that adrenal gland upgrade. One scan spent to try to take down that one, and it distracts MVP long enough not to see this push of roaches. Again, MVP is getting an unusually high amount of tanks. Almost always you see more Thors, but with the failure of that push, suddenly Nerchio's getting the opportunity to step into action.
Looking a bit scary here for MVP. He's down by so much supply right now. Income tab not looking too pretty for MVP just yet either until he gets that fourth really up and running. And it looks like Nerchio maxing out very, very soon with that 3-3 on the way and extra infestors. Then, oh, with the Broodlords as well. This can get a little bit scary.
There's 5 Vikings. Where is the air support? Where is the air support? Oh no, 5 free Broodlords for MVP.
And the Queen, one Queen coming along to try and transfuse where they can. And oh, what a lovely little transfuse there on the very end. Oh my god, those transfuses saving 2 of those Broodlords so handily there. Nerchio taking great precautions against his opponent despite having been caught in the middle.
I'm real scared for Nerchio stepping into the late game. He has just a huge problem with this 4th base being up for MVP.
Yeah.
Now a 5th base is only a little ways around the corner. MVP again saying, well, if you're going Broodlord, you are not going to be fast at all. So suddenly Hellion Harass is really strong again.
Oh, and look at this. Nerchio actually takes that base up to the top left-hand corner, which is something we couldn't stand. But Bloodflame Hellions coming into the 4th. How many drones are they going to be able to kill? Zergling's trying to kill it off as well. He actually doesn't get that many drones, so a really nice defense there by Nerchio.
But with that nice defense, suddenly we see that this expansion is not under threat at all. This is the danger with being this spread out as a Zerg player with slow units. And Nerchio's trying to find a good angle, but I like this choice. He's getting the Ultralisk Cavern. He's rounding out the rest of his composition. He's trying to kill the, oh, what is going on? What on earth?
How is that one Hellion getting so much damage done? He gets 1 drone. He might be able to get a few more as well here. Meanwhile, though, we have Nerchio actually pushing through the middle of the map. He has a few Corruptors to be able to deal with those Vikings. But again, he needs good Fungal Ghost on the Vikings.
And there's the step in. All the tanks unsieged. What a misstep by MVP, but does it even matter? There's so many units raining havoc from the air, from below, and suddenly MVP, without even sieging up, is simply waltzing his way into a good position.
MVP had a great spread on the Vikings there, so even if he'd wanted to line Fungal Ghost, but that's not a good spread. One Fungal Ghost hits those Vikings. Is he able to catch them once again? No, he's not. They just move out of position as that one Infestor was trying to hunt them down. Meanwhile, sieging up, and this could get a little bit scary for Nerchio, but he's got so many Zerglings flooding in. The Vikings landing to chew away as much surface area as possible. There you go. GG.
Kind of an unusual game with MVP falling a ways behind after a big mech push and just going into mega passive mode, completely stopped doing any kind of aggression, built up a big attack force, and then attacked once for a solid win.
Yeah, he had a few aggressive pushes in there with the Hellions, but again, actually, now that I think about it, he killed a lot of drones. He killed a lot of drones.
Especially right at the start, it was the Hellion Banshee harass at the start that really struck me. The fact that he was able to get over 30 kills at the start of the game, whereas we saw not nearly anywhere remotely good harass like that from MVP in any of his past Terran vs. Zergs in this entire tournament. Most of the time, it completely falls flat at the start. Only late in the game is he able to kill off those drones.
Yeah, and even against Vortex, who, I mean, we, in the first few days, we established that potential weakness there in that 9-10 minute mark where MVP was looking to exploit against him. So it's interesting that it's working here against Nerchio. And I mean, going into games 3, 4, and 5, Nerchio is going to have to like step up that defense, or take the 3rd a little bit later and use like a macro hatch instead.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the idea of getting a macro hatch, I guess I'd say 4 hatch on 3 base before the layer. It's a type of play that lets you focus more on queens, focus more on creep spread, and just get a gigantic amount of units out to deal with any sort of early threats, especially against mech. A lot of Ling Roach counterattacking, a lot of just basic mineral focus is an excellent way to deal with mech until you can get a huge pack of Ultralisks up.
Yep, especially as well if you are going for that Ling play, getting those melee upgrades very early as well. It just, you know, having that extra lava keeps you in that really, really nice defensive position if you actually want to go for that kind of thing. Yeah, admittedly, you know, going for the macro hatch and not going for the third leaves you in a bit of an odd economical situation. But it's better to be in that odd economical situation than lose 40 drones.
I mean, it's kind of a blunt way to put it, but yeah, I mean, we're seeing a lot of Zergs do these weird things where they're getting away with as few defenses as possible, a few cutely placed buildings, and Terrans are more and more just going, I'll just attack with a lot of stuff, like the Blue Flame Hellion push that we saw out of MVP at the in his previous series against Vortex. And again, if it falls flat, it's terrible. But in a lot of circumstances, we're seeing that the third expansion just doesn't even have anything at it at all. And you can just kill a hatch with Blue Flame Hellions, kill a hatch with any sort of big early harassment. And I do think, though, that with all the strength that we saw out of MVP, Nerchio now going to be on Atlantis spaceship as match number 3.
That will be very interesting.
Distances.
Yep, so we shall pass it over to the analyst desk guys with Tastosis.
Hey guys, we're going to go right into this replay and look at that end battle in the game, especially the army compositions, because Nerchio didn't quite have what he needed.
No, unfortunately he did not. We're going to throw that up on screen for you guys now. So it's this moment when he's pushing with the siege tanks, the Thors, the Hellions, and it's important to notice the position there on the map here as well.
Yeah, now look at this. I mean, we have a lot of siege tanks and Thors, but mostly it's Vikings. He has 14 Vikings around. Where are those? They're right over here. So there's the Vikings. Now, for the Zerg army, yeah, I mean, he has a good amount of roaches, but roaches aren't good against well-upgraded mech. They kind of evaporate. So at the super late game, you really either need to always dodge the Terran army or have a Broodlord Corruptor composition, whereas he only has 3 Broodlords and 6 Corruptors. So when this battle actually occurs, this is going to be bad news as soon as those Vikings come up here.
All right, so as you can see, the Zerg army is backing up, trying to get into a good position here. And yeah, as Artosis said very well, it's the wrong unit composition here for him to engage this with. And as you can see, the Vikings wrecking over here. And there's really also not exactly enough under the Broodlords. The funny thing about Broodlords is they're similar to like Hydras off creep, where once you start to run away from a battle that you're losing,
it's
you're
hard
probably
to get away,
going to lose a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, so with this type of army where he's very low on Broodlords and Corruptors, he needs to buy more time to get the right units that he can actually stop Vikings from killing his air army so that he can kill the overwhelming ground army. So, I mean, he was in a pretty hard spot, but Nerchio really needed to run around the army with the roaches, you know, do things like attack down here as MVP's up here, or attack up here when MVP's over here. But in this case, he just fought head on, and after MVP killed that much, I mean, what are you going to resupply with? You don't really have time. He knows that you're going to be weak right there. He knows that you don't have any more Broodlords.
And I mean, from there, it just went downhill. Yeah. And do you have anything else to add, Artosis? It's pretty straightforward.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty straightforward for the end part of that game. So, yeah, that about does that for that replay. And I guess we will throw it right back over to Day9 and Caleris. Guys, take it away.
Thanks very much, guys. Thank you very much, guys. Very, very acute analysis once again. And as always, so we are going to be getting on to Atlantis spaceship here for game number 3 between these guys.
Yeah, and this really is one of the largest maps that has really ever been created in the history of esports.
Yeah.
It's so huge. And even though there's that middle gas expansion that you might think would contribute to mech or to even some sort of Sky Terran play, I'm just not comfortable with anything but an aggressive marine tanking sort of play on this map. There's just too much space to cover. Actually, maybe I take it back on the Sky Terran bit a little bit, incorporating some Ravens in there, but I like the Bomber-esque Raven bio mix that will be really effective in those ultra late game spots.
Yeah, and we've seen time and time again on this map, even just in this tournament alone, the way in which Marine Tank can actually work in terms of putting pressure on the bases that are lying on the edge of the map, or even in the middle of the map where there's those 3 Vespene geysers. That can be something that is very, very difficult to deal with, sieging it up from the backside there in order to be able to do a lot of damage.
And as we can see on the mini-map, distances are huge. It's going to be a long macro game. Up in the north position, tied 1-1 with his opponent from Poland. It's Acer's Nerchio.
And down to the bottom left-hand side here, spawning as our red Terran. Sending his SCV out to be able to throw down that supply depot. Give it up for LGM's MVP.
This is a map where I think that it's pretty safe to say MVP is going to be going command center first every game. I would honestly be shocked if he didn't. It's the sort of map where, I mean, again, I'd love to point out that it looks like a large teddy bear, but wow, interestingly, not queuing up the SCVs as he normally does. There we go. He will be going command center first. Nerchio, who goes for his 14 hatch, would certainly not mind going for a 15 hatch, but nope. Going to stick with things all being standard in this game.
Well, I mean, it's rather interesting, the thing that you say that Command Center First is going to be coming out, because on every other map, I think that the Drone Scout for Nerchio would ideally be able to block off the Command Center First, but because the distances are so long, it's not going to be able to block off this Command Center First. Yeah. So MVP playing to the map. Nerchio not really going to be able to get a whole lot done with this Drone Scout, other than probably pick away at the SCV and force 1 or 2 SCVs off to annoy it.
It's a nice timing, because the SCV that you want to pull off as Terran wants to build this barracks right here. It doesn't want to have time to come down and defend against this drone. And we see Nerchio actually whacking at the SCV first. That's kind of a surprise. But I think that Nerchio could definitely do something like what Nestea does and build a very early 3rd hatch there.
That could be an option here for Nerchio. But again, you know, that 3rd hatchery, we've actually seen Nerchio do very, very quick 3rd hatcheries against Terrans in this tournament alone. And I mean, it's worked out for him pretty darn well. I mean, there's even been cases where we've seen the 3rd hatchery go down before spawning pool against, I think it was Nestea who did it against MVP on this exact map, actually, now that I think about it.
If only it was on Metropolis, where we'd get the chance to see all those Seeker missiles connect yet again. But Nerchio now going for the queen play, as expected. Probably will go for the 4-queen play, but again, I like the idea of early macro hatches on this map. Dongre Gu, very big fan of getting macro hatch before gas and this kind of thing.
Yep, and I mean, other than that, what do we have going on for MVP? He's just throwing down, it looks like he's going to throw down his factory with that first 100 gas. There we go. Getting the reactor on there as well to be able to go for that Hellion play. And to be fair, I really do like Hellion play on this map, or at least a Hellion opener, in order to be able to, you know, snake around, find a little bit of a hole in this natural. Even if there's a quick 3rd there, it works out very well. Yeah. Because there's so much room that you have to cover here as the Zerg player. You get spread out so easily.
And I mean, by the same token, getting 4 queens at the start of this map makes total sense. You want to begin spreading the creep as much as possible. We have seen MVP get caught down with his pants down against Mutalisk play quite a lot on this map. He over-prepare, well, like all Terrans nowadays, over-prepare a bit against the Infestor style play, such as moves like this, taking this early 3rd command center. This works amazingly well if he's going for something a little bit more passive.
Yeah, and I think that also, again, if he was to get aggressive, for example, chances are we'd have probably seen him take the base at that base with the 3 Vespene geysers. You don't need that much gas, to be honest, at the start of a game here, unless you're actually going to commit to, you know, a lot of mech. But just being able to take that and be aggressive down that attack path, it makes it really, really easy to defend your expansions while still getting that damage done.
Yeah, that through the middle aggression is so awesome. The back door, also a nice way to put pressure on the opponent, but it leaves the center so wide open. I mean, if you're going to attack through mid, you can easily take this, but this bottom right's also going to pin MVP a little bit more to that down right aggression. MVP now following it up with kind of a shockingly long-term play. Oh, he almost, if he just had an extra Zergling there, he'd be able to take out this one SCV constructing, but no big deal as we see these Hellions moving up. Nerchio will be forced to build at least some roaches to deflect them.
As this play, I mean, yes, he's keeping his opponent on the back foot with these 4 Hellions, so for now, Nerchio's going to have to commit a lot to the defense. But he's playing exceedingly greedy. I guess, again, it is to the map. He puts his 3rd command center at location and then goes for double engineering bay. Yeah, all he had was 1 Marine about 2 minutes ago, like 1 minute ago or so.
It's pretty bold. I mean, There's a lot of builds that do crush it. For instance, just going for 6, 7, 8 roaches right at the start, sending them cross map. That would certainly give MVP a ton of trouble, but MVP would just cancel and move right along. But here's a small Zergling attack that could pose a little bit of a threat.
But indeed, there's nothing at that third location here to really be able to defend it. He is making a bunker in the back, which would have been fantastic if it had been started 30 seconds earlier, but he couldn't have known this. The Zergling's gonna go to work on these SCVs, killing off a mule, and for now, we'll be able to get a few SCVs. But the bunker just barely finishes up there. Really nice to play.
A little bit of a misstep there by Nerchio. He does have the opportunity to maybe poke up into the main base, but after those 6 Hellions have been produced, it's time for the factory to become a good add-on builder.
Yeah.
He's just going to play a little Sim City up in the main base while MVP gets all the bigger, manlier, important upgrades. And MVP's doing a style that I would generally call a little bit older school than what we're seeing modern Terrans do, which is to just get the 3-3 army and trust in 3-3 Marines. But I think on this map, it's, again, what you need to do.
Yeah, admittedly, he is going to be at that 3-3 very quick here in comparison to Nerchio. I mean, with that double evolution chamber, not actually getting really aggressive with those upgrades just yet, whilst MVP just keeping his opponent in that defensive stance with these Hellions. But that 4th base is on the way, and for a Zerg with that rich Vespene Geyser as well as these 2 normal Vespene Geysers, that is a lot of gas.
It's going to be Hive Tech heaven. I mean,
yeah.
Zergs generally are really happy to have 8 normal geysers. That is what allows them to do these transitions from Broodlord Corruptor Infestor back to Ling Ultra and so on and so forth. But if you have this extra rich geyser, it's going to be so great. The Hellions now trying to find a window to step in, but they're going to run into all the units, kill off a queen, but MVP gets shut down, and suddenly MVP has nothing to control the map with.
The creep queen indeed going down. I mean, that's not too big a deal there for Nerchio. He will be able to spread that creep once again. But then again, we already have the 4th queen out on the map anyway, so he can transfer that over to the 4th hatchery in just a little bit if he desires. And meanwhile, spreading creep at the 4th potential location and even 5th potential location here of MVP. I've never really paid much attention to this map in terms of this really, really small little expansion.
Yeah,
I completely forgot about that.
I mean, it's like a bonus expansion. It's like a consolation expansion. It's like, sorry you couldn't defend the map well enough. You get this sort of going home prize of a tiny half base. MVP's building these oddly placed bunkers and would love to just mule this expansion out. Then he can expand along the upper path where he really wants to be. There's a lot of infestors on the map. This is going to be the scariest move ever for MVP. Oh, Nerchio's going to get in position. And look at this, a stim back. Oh, this was a big misstep by Nerchio, ignoring the fact that he loses these units. He had a huge fungal he could have snapped up.
Oh, but with that scan, he had to assume that MVP was going to pull back, and the one Marine does end up stimming up there, trying to focus down that one Roach, and he gets it. Marine for a Roach, pretty good trade there for MVP.
MVP is still just chilling, and I am blown away to actually say that MVP might have 3-3 before 17 minutes. It's kind of crazy to think, and oh, the worst possible thing for MVP's units happens. He gets absolutely everything nabbed. Medevacs get to go home and tell the story
of how those units suddenly turned green whilst being completely surrounded anyway. Wow, that was that was fuel to feed the fire, really. Getting that fungal growth off there, just being able to kill them quickly, able to, you know, save some of those Zerglings.
Look at the read from, oh my God, Nerchio is all over MVP in this game.
Such an impressive play there, being able to catch that off guard as well. And right now, with that Hive morphing in, Spire going down, that 2-2 on the way for Nerchio. But again, 3-3 is going to be started very, very soon for MVP. He's already started that +3 weapons, +3 armor is going to be on the way. And with that, you know, rising Marine count that's always going to be present for MVP, 3-3 becomes so deadly to deal with as a Zerg.
But I don't even think MVP is going to be able to get there. Look at this huge force. The instant, oh my God, there's the sensor tower. It senses everything coming in. MVP is going to have to lift and run. This whole force is coming in, but Nerchio is going to get the big kills.
Whole position on those Zerglings. A few of them will get killed off, but he did get 1 or 2 SCV kills in the process there. Meanwhile, one Infestor going forwards, burrowed. He's going to throw probably some eggs down on here. But actually, drops the scan and is able to kill that off. kind of a lucky break there for MVP.
Now we see Nerchio just going on expanding crazy mode. He's going to take all these opposite-ended maps. Center MVP still hasn't been able to land as the creep has only just receded. MVP has gone into late-game mode, starting to add on more Marauders. 3-3 en route. It looks like it will not quite be done by 17, but shortly thereafter. Still stupidly, ridiculously early as Zerg's now just starting 3-2 for himself.
Zergling's trying to come back here to deal with this, but this is not the attack path that Nerchio wants to be taking. He wants to actually fall back to the safety of that third base. But again, actually, he needs to be able to secure this area, because once the siege starts going up, and there he's even dropping in that fourth location right now, throwing down some infested terrorists to try and clean this up, but that's a lot of bio.
MVP has almost no units. It's amazing to me that he's been able to pull this off. He does get one of those medevacs, but with these well-positioned tanks here and all these tanks rallied over here, MVP has all his bases covered. There he has a starport, now finally able to start churning out some Vikings. 2 more starports at his natural, and it looks like another nice fungal growth.
And 9 Broodlords morphing in for Nerchio right now. And currently there's actually, well, there's 2 Vikings are in production, and he's adding on 2 more starports as well. So this is perfect.
Oh, Nerchio pauses the game.
By MVP. But yeah.
We don't know why. Nerchio, his monitor went off, but he says it's okay now.
Ah, okay.
Instant reaction, he says, go-go's, we're going to be go-going. It looks like MVP says go-go in all caps lock. He's ready to go. So the match has come back, and MVP now has the control over the center watchtower.
So let's
we see these 9 Broodlords now moving forward.
Yeah, he will be able to push forwards here. Adrenal glands on the way, as well as a load of Zerglings being added on to be able to bolster this force. Right now, going to be able to hit a lot of these siege tanks with the Broodlings, get a nice surround on them as well to be able to nibble away at them. And MVP here, he's going to lose a lot of siege tanks for completely free, Sean.
Oh my god, losing all these siege tanks is going to make it so difficult to control against all these various counterattacks that Nerchio loves to do. Top base. Looks like MVP wants to try to threaten this, but oh my god, Zerg's going to be surrounding with everything. Nerchio's completely prepared.
He actually pulls back there, gets a nice fungal growth and a lot of that. There's actually only 1 medevac here, so it's going to be so hard to heal this bio up. Meanwhile, we have a little bit of a drop in the 4th location here of Nerchio, and he pushes in against this force and absolutely tears it apart.
Just decimating it. There we see a small force of Marine Marauder also trying to join, but somehow Nerchio's able to answer and kill off some of this dropping action. And now that we see some Vikings on the screen, Nerchio's decided that it is time to go, 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 and is heading down to the center rich field for MVP.
Yeah, very scared for this base right now. And again, the architecture works quite nicely here in Nerchio's favor. He won't be able to really kind of circumvent the architecture if he actually sieges over the ravine, but he's going to come around to the side here to be able to catch some Vikings with fungals if they end up straying into range. And indeed they are going to do. Starting to work on those Broodlords, but the Infestors, they're on the way.
Oh, the Zerglings are just going to run right up to the Planetary Fortress, but the reaction is very swift from MVP. Instantly tries to wrap around, but no, it looks like not going to be enough. The Planetary Fortress falls. Vikings everywhere on the map. Fungals landing at the north side, Marine Marauder, and at the south side, more Marine Marauder, picking off everything, but Nerchio just seems to have an endless amount of Zerglings.
This is what MVP does. It's despite you killing a base, I am always going to take a base or 2 bases off of you whilst that's going on, but he's still in a lot of trouble. Having been relegated to this 3 base now and having a lot of SCVs killed off in the 3rd as well means that it's going to be a bit tricky here for MVP to establish an economy, but actually, now that I'm looking at it, there's only 3 bases up and running for Nerchio.
Yeah, both players have been battered down to 3 bases. These 2 Marauders will kill off the Queen because they have that +3 armor, and the Queen's dealing basically no damage to them. MVP continuing to drop these bases around, but there are a pair of Corruptors here that would love to kill off this medevac if only they were given instructions. And there they go. The target fire from MVP, who is just so on point, I can't believe it.
Marines breaking this expansion once again. Ultralisk transition is on the way, and he will be able to fend off this medevac for now. Other than that, Zergling's just chasing down a few SCVs at this 4th location for MVP, and he's going to be able to get quite a few kills here.
Some crazy exchanging going on, but now Nerchio needs to just secure the center, and this seems like a little bit of a late play in Ultralisk Cavern going down now for Nerchio in his main and his 3rd. Where is it? There it is. This seems quite late, doesn't it, Killars? He should have almost had that up already.
Yeah, it's difficult to actually. I mean, given how this game has progressed, it's so difficult at this point in time to be able to continually actually establish this missile turret trying to go up here. Nerchio unborrows just a few links to be able to stop that from happening, so he will constantly have to waste that scam against this, despite thinking that, well, hey, the borrowed threat must have gone. He must have unborrowed all of them to be able to actually kill off that missile turret.
Oh, MVP going for the ever so famous double Raven tech. There's the Corvid reactor, the Seeker missile. Maximum corruptors on the field for Nerchio. Needs to be able to pick off those Vikings, even though he doesn't have any of those Broodlords yet.
And in a similar vein to what we saw against NST, if he keeps these Ravens hidden against Nerchio for a good portion of the game, it's going to get a bit tricky for Nerchio going into those engagements now. For now, we will have Nerchio swinging around to the backside here with a lot of Zerglings looking to put a counter on this third base. And actually, this could do quite a bit of damage in itself.
Oh, this is going to be brutal, and it looks like MVP realizes and is sending everything back. An unsieged tank gets gobbled up almost immediately, and there's the stem run down to that back bunker placement, but Nerchio continues to overrun.
40 workers, 42 workers killed off. Oh my god, the count just keeps rising.
Oh my god, 46 workers killed by Nerchio in that big counterattack. And he sees the Raven.
Yeah. Oh, what a lovely little scout out there. A little bit of luck involved in that, of course, as the Raven did move out to that location. But, you know, with those Zerglings, very nice to be able to actually even keep some of them alive whilst doing so much of that damage.
Well, interestingly, both players are actually kind of out of workers. Or out of bases. Terran doesn't have a natural. His third's just been decimated.
No. Look at the income for MVP right now. That's a sorry sight here.
Oh. Some of the most dangerous exchanges going on this top side of the map. Nerchio basically running on 3 bases, getting a 4th base up, long-range mining from the center, but needs to get into a comfortable position.
Yeah, it's looking a bit scary for MVP once again. Those Hunter Seeker missiles need to be very, very potent here. I mean, MVP at this point, he needs to actually connect with a lot of those infestors.
God. Oh, the infestor is in a good position, but no, the Ravens move over it. Just the right time to be able to spot everything.
MVP currently looking at the 146 supply, whilst Nerchio at 192. Both players basically maxed out here. Another drop, limiting how much of an income Nerchio can actually have. And will end up getting fended off for now, but again, MVP constantly limiting Nerchio in terms of that income.
God, we saw briefly that army tab was up there on the screen, and it's 158 for MVP because he actually just doesn't have any workers. He's at 38. Nerchio's deciding that now's not quite the time. He does have these Broodlords in production. He just threw down a couple of infested Terrans just to get a scout on how many tanks were there.
These Ravens accumulating a lot of energy. 2 more on the way in just a little bit. And again, this is this is a little bit of everything for Nerchio here with that 6 Broodlords, 6 Ultralists, and so many infestors mixed in. And I don't know if he should be pushing into this spot.
Oh, there's the engagement. We see the Seeker missiles do go down and annihilate the Broodlords instantly. Nerchio decides to run into the fray. Ultralists and infested Terrans leading, but MVP's food is just not dwindling. Acer Nerchio, though, has managed to find some money fungal placement to be able to step forward into this engagement. But where did this Marine Marauder pack come from? Oh, MVP drops the Manor Mule.
He does. We have 72 more Zerglings in production, so not only did he find money elsewhere, he found it there. And right now, oh, look at this, MVP killed off the 3rd base as well. It's almost mined down, but again, this is going to limit the amount of lava he has, and he only has 7 lava to be able to replenish against this. He's swinging in once again, getting a lot of good surface area on that bio. The Ultralist cleaving away. It's not actually dying off itself either, but there's so much firepower here for MVP.
Too many medevacs healing everything, and it looks like MVP will just not finally barely loses this. What a series of exchanges, and GG from Acer's Nerchio.
There's been so many engagements like that during this tournament, like 1 Ultralisk and 3 Zerglings nibbling away at 1 Marine and 1 Marauder, being healed constantly by medevacs. Just this tournament thus far, Sean, has been phenomenal. So many close series. This in itself is getting down to the wire. MVP and Nerchio looking so comparably strong. But MVP drops everywhere. He's just in every single spot on the map at once.
I mean, the only way I can describe it is the longer the game goes on, the higher the chances of MVP winning.
Yeah.
I mean, Mech in game number 2, after a huge flood, pulls it together. Then on Atlantis Spaceship, you generally think that the Zerg is most comfortable on the big maps. You have counterattacks. Zerg can use Mutalisk drops, expand on all sorts of angles, but MVP somehow is really good on these huge maps, and it was that Bio-Raven composition that just smacked down Nerchio's all-hive mixture.
Yep, so Nerchio here, 1 game away from defeat right now, as we are going to be loading up onto Metropolis.
That it is the map that never ends.
I mean, it's so big, you just keep walking and keep walking and keep walking in order to be able to eventually find your opponent. Then you do, and then realize at the 7-minute mark, they've already set up 5 bases, a lovely big spine crawler wall to greet you there, so then you have to do a lot of dropping.
We've seen some weird games out of MVP on this map, though, where in some circumstances he's able to get up his money mixture of the Ravens and the tank lines, the planetary fortresses in middle, but other times we see that just a whole bunch of basic Zergling Baneling just runs through the front door and crushes him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is the map where I have confidence in MVP, but there's a certainly large probability that Nerchio can just do some big attack at the start and win it.
That is true. Nerchio, known to mix it up a little bit in this matchup. Not a massive, massive amount. But again, if MVP is going to play very greedy, there is always that potential from any Zerg on the planet. Not just, you know, the ones that are always aggressive anyway.
I will say that there's a couple of timings that Vortex was using that not a lot of Zergs do. And that's what just threw MVP off so huge. And it's funny now, having seen those in the semifinals just now, then translating that over to here where Nerchio's playing, where I'm watching going, well, he could totally attack there. And no other Zergs really do. Nerchio didn't. But we see MVP comfortable with these windows where Zergs just accept not attacking. And as a result, he's able to build those third command centers right on his opponent's naturals.
Yeah.
Or right on his own
naturals.
Yes, thank you. He doesn't build them in the main.
Yeah, so MVP looking pretty focused here, wanting to get into this 4th game in just a little bit. But we shall send it over to Tastosis at the analysis desk.
Pretty insane game back there. We tried to find the part that we thought best, highlighted. We could summarize that entire game, and it was over here at the end. So we're going to throw that up on screen now. By the way, this is, I think, one of the sicker games we've had here.
Yeah, this one was pretty wild.
Hard
back
to tell
and forth.
who's going to win.
Yeah, they were all over the place. But this last battle was pretty important because, you know, as they said in the commentary, there's kind of a little bit of everything here. And MVP, he's getting this like super force where he gets a lot of Ravens in there. He gets so cost efficient. So at this point, Nerchio is looking to actually run up, crush the entire army, and then move on. You know, like go through the map, start killing everything off. So he needs to crush this. So if we take a look, he makes an army that, yeah, it should be able to crush this, but it's not going to go very well, Tasteless.
And here we see the engagement now. Now, initially I thought when I saw this, well, you know, MVP's kind of, he's not in the best position here. But then the real problem is actually the setup of Nerchio's army here, too. You got Broodlords out in front. You have nothing underneath them. There's stuff behind them, but that doesn't really help. As you can see here, we're playing this now.
And look at this now. The Seeker missiles all coming out, and bam, they're all gone in a matter of seconds between the Vikings and the Seeker missiles. And now this is just getting bloody. He's not going to crush through this anymore, which is a big issue. Notice the Ravens are all still left alive. That's really scary. The Medivacs, no way these things are going down because now the Vikings can easily clean up the Corruptors. And then, of course, the rally comes up, and the rest of this army gets cleaned up. And that is just every expensive unit Zerg has.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny how it worked out here, too. It was just the Ultralisks that were left. And if you look at how many Marauders are here.
The Broodlords were super important. To lose them all just like that, there's no way to rebuild so many Hive units, so many Infestors in time to stop MVP from this point on.
Yeah, I mean, he basically lost everything. So that does it for our analysis. Anything else you want to add, Artosis?
No, I think that's it for now, guys. We're going to go to a really quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters Gamescom Grand Final here between MVP and Nerchio. Currently 2-1 to MVP in this best of 5 here. I'm Kyle Aris.
I'm Day 9, and Nerchio's really going to have to step it up. I mean, he has already shown that he's capable of beating MVP in that ultra crazy cheese situation in game number 1, but it's the late game where there's real issues. And that's kind of odd because that's normally where we see that Nerchio shines quite a bit. So I'm blown away to see, well, I guess I shouldn't be blown away because it is MVP that he's going up against, but still, it's in those late game situations where Nerchio needs to be getting better engagements. He needs to be starting to play a little bit more stably, a little bit more focus on where's my edge coming from. Do I do a little harass? Do I get an extra upgrade? Maybe neural parasite against mech. These are the kind of small adjustments that Nerchio needs to make that will have a big impact on the game.
Yeah, and I think in a similar vein to Metropolis, we're going to, in a similar vein to Antigua Shipyard, Atlantis Spaceship, I finally got there in the end. You know, Metropolis is one of those maps that we may end up seeing MVP play very greedy. There's going to be 2 ends to the spectrum here. Either MVP is going to play very greedy, or because he's 2-1 up, he's going to play hyper-aggression in order to be able to kind of just seal this deal.
What I hope to see out of MVP is some sort of marine aggression at the start of this game that will really help prevent Nerchio from getting to the, like, 8 gas again. Up in the top corner, currently behind in this series, if you'd like him to pull it off, give a cheer for Acer's Nerchio.
And spawning down in the bottom left-hand corner, pretty much match point for him here. If he wins, he goes away with $6,500. Ladies and gentlemen, spawning as the red, give it up for LGIM's MVP.
It's actually 6,500 euros.
Oh,
which is something like
yeah,
25,000 American dollars because our currency totally sucks.
Pretty much. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay.
It's okay for me though. I'm used to living on the continent now and being from England.
Oh, yeah,
the English pound's pretty strong, so everything there costs like 10,000 euros for like a chocolate bar. It's pretty
it's
annoying.
pretty absurd. Like 6,500 pounds would be like the GDP of America.
Yeah, pretty much. So my apologies for that, Sean. Let's move into the game.
You see the expected early expand, and I guess I should also say the fairly expected command center first coming out of MVP. And given this sort of weird placement, now he's just going to go mine briefly before he takes himself his fast CC. But as anticipated, this is the biggest macro map.
I think that going into this game here, Nerchio up against MVP, if MVP is able to get into his stride in a macro game, on this map specifically, he is almost undefeatable. And I need to say that very, very slowly. So Nerchio here, he has to realize that I feel MVP is just going to play greedy, again, in a similar vein to what we saw previous games. So I would love to see some early aggression from Nerchio, like really early aggression.
I wouldn't even mind seeing some Ling Ultra Nidus aggression. This is something that most Zerg players are going Ling Infestor Broodlord. And this is kind of a result of most Terrans going for kind of a, I guess I would call it an adequate Marine tank medevac, which just gets totally smoked by reasonable Marine Infestor Banshee play. Or Marine Infestor tank play. What the hell am I trying to say? I keep saying the wrong mix of units. Let me try that for the 3rd time. The Ling Infestor Broodlord crushes most Marine tank medevac play. There we go.
Nice.
But on this map, when you spread out to 5 bases, Ling Ultra Nidus Worm means that it's difficult to cover all possible locations at once.
You're making this difficult for yourself, man. That's a million combinations in about 3 sentences. But you got it. You got it.
I get there eventually.
Yeah, that was nice. That was nice. But, I mean, what we're seeing from MVP here is not as greedy a play as we saw in Anticipation, adding on that 2nd barracks to actually make Marines, as opposed to only having 1 Marine at the 7:30-minute mark, which always leaves you a little bit vulnerable. So MVP, I think he was thinking like we were, assuming that, you know, because of the map sizes, there's always that potential that Nerchio is going to put on that aggression. But as you can see, Nerchio swinging in with just a few lings.
What we're probably going to see from MVP is another command center and then double gas and then straight into tank. No reason to beat around the bush and try to go Hellion at this point. I mean, he could potentially go barracks, but I would more so anticipate that he'd just say, you know what, tanks are awesome. This is something MVP just does. He loves himself some tanks.
Yeah, and especially on Metropolis, once again, there's just two big chokes to really put on the aggression there. And if you're able to control those with the tanks on, say, high grounds, for example, it makes it so difficult for Nerchio to actually break. So other than that, we have the two gas gases being added on, as you rightfully pointed out. And he could also, you know, go into that double engineering bay as well. No reason not to. But, you know, all really viable options here going into game number 4.
Nerchio, let's think about what he's doing. He's doing a kind of a later gas than what we've seen him do beforehand. Couple of Marines poking forward. It's going to be an extremely easy, straightforward defense with this queen opening from Nerchio. And is he going for a macro hatch? He generally does something mineral-wise around now, but MVP doing the smart play, just making sure there's no expansion quite yet.
Yeah, nice little done here. The drone is on the way. The Ling's going to try and clear this out, but that's too many Marines to actually deal with. He'll have to retreat to the reinforcement of his 2 queens for now. Second drone gets sniped off there by those Marines and they get away with their lives. Nice
Such a slick little play, just picking off that drone, making sure that Nerchio cannot quite get it up. Layer instantly goes down for Nerchio, and 2 more gas geysers. Ooh. So it looks like Nerchio wanted to just hint that, yeah, that is what I'm going to be doing. I am going to be going 3 hatch, and then not. This, I really should be Mutalisk if he wants to be able to exploit this situation.
Yeah, and a good map for it. There's a lot of things here that they're doing that are good maps for him, but he's actually throwing the Roach Warren down. This could quite easily also just be there to, you know, fend off some early aggression from his opponent, but they don't work too well against just Marine compositions. So, and especially with the Marauders being mixed in already here from MVP, so he's going to be able to bust down those rocks pretty darn quickly and bag himself that lovely little 3rd base.
God, again going for this double engineering bay play, and I know we've been seeing it out of him, but he just does it in a slightly different way every time, but it's always a risk. How do you stay alive against whatever the Zerg is throwing at you? Well, I guess I think my Zerg opponent is going for a 3-base play. I'll go ahead and get my double engineering base, so he probably won't be attacking, but looks like Nerchio has exactly that plan. Macro hatch down, circling speed, roach speed. I think we're actually going to see a 2-base bust attempt.
I mean, is he going to keep it? I guess he's going to let this 3rd base finish just for the lava, right? And then if he was going to go for something like that, as crazy aggression as possible, he's transferring a lot of drones down there to be able to get that going. But again, there's going to be that timing where he has all these upgrades up and running. And I mean, how many tanks does his opponent have? Okay, he doesn't have any tanks right now. He's just committing fully to the Marine and Marauder. But there's still only around 15 Marines and 3 Marauders on the map. He really needs to ramp up that production here in order to be able to deal with any kind of aggression in this mid. Oh, wow. 12 roaches.
12 roaches popping out. Infestation pit. This is the Nerchio special, a Ling Roach Infester mixture against Terran. The real danger, though, is that MVP is starting to finish up these medevacs, and MVP loves to go for medevac drops around now because, again, it's impossible for Mutals to be out, impossible for really anything to threaten the medevacs to be out yet.
Yeah, loving the positioning of the Overseer up to that top left to be able to spot that if it was going on in terms of that drop play. And he's also even spreading out a second wall of Overlords right up there as well, just to be able to catch and be doubly sure that that's going on. Nice Overlord to the south here. And other than that, just more roaches piling out. Not too many drones in production. He has already got up to that 70 drone count. And with all these roaches on the way, Pathogen Gland's going to be finishing up as well soon. But, I mean, he's not even fully committing to this mid-game play. He's got melee upgrades on the way here. So he's going to have a nice little stepping stone onto that late game if he actually wants it.
Well, I do see the Pathogen Glands going down. Nerchio going to reveal his pack of roaches, pulls back immediately. The scan denies the creep spread from continuing any further, but as these infestors begin to be produced, then suddenly MVP's got to be wary of a big shove at the front. Tank's just now stopping, or just now finishing, and he hasn't really got a good foothold over this center area yet.
I think most, oh yeah, Siege Tank did finish up there, so that's pretty good in itself. And other than that, just adding on more barracks, the second factory going down to be able to crank out those extra tanks when he needs them. 4th command center on the way here. So again, we've said it 1,000,001 times, but Metropolis really favoring this very, very passive style, really favoring no one really poking too much and just getting into that very, very late game situation.
Splitting up of all of Nerchio's units on opposite sides, but Nerchio seems to have been able, oh, Infestors pop out at the last possible second, and suddenly that medevac is going to fall down very quickly. The Queen in the main base will also not die, so MVP thus far has not really gotten any good opportunities to deal damage.
Yeah, he tried to go for another drop over to the right-hand side, but, I mean, there's no basis here to actually exploit anyway, so he's going to be throwing down that hatchery at the 4th location, so he's just going to keep these units hitting around for here is MVP. And meanwhile, Nerchio, with so many units marching across the map.
Starting to step forward. There's a couple of tank blasts, and no, he's decided that he wants to engage. Fungal growth goes down. It's a limbo line Zerg, but it is a long limbo line, and Nerchio starting to step into some good positions, but these tanks have just amazing angles, but Roaches spread out, take those down. MVP might barely defend this attack.
He's got a few more units coming out, not to mention that reinforcement point so close here. It's going to push him back for now. Nerchio being fended off quite easily.
And now MVP stepping into action with this drop play at the top side. MVP never misses a beat, instantly stepping into aggression. And Nerchio's been doing a decent job attacking or defending, but it's the fact he's trying to do both that's giving him trouble. MVP is just super good at it.
At this point, we really need to have Nerchio be able to establish this 4th base pretty much uncontested. He needs those 2 extra gas geysers up to be able to fuel the Hive and the Spire that are now morphing in. Drops the scan, seeing that Hive morphing in halfway and that Spire. So he knows exactly what his opponent wants to do from here on.
God, that medevac is still being really annoying, and Nerchio is going to have to maybe waste a couple of fungal growths on it. Oh, he misses with a fungal. A painful moment for all infestors around the world. But Nerchio right now has spent a lot of gas on Roaches. He's depleted a full set of Roaches. I actually think that this engagement angle would have been a lot better for him to sweep in. Could have gotten the chance to avoid high ground tank reinforcement, but I think Nerchio was feeling a little overeager from the start of the game.
Oh God, and this sensor tower placement from MVP, keeping an eye on everything. I mean, if these 2 choke points weren't easy to defend enough, adding a sensor tower there to know exactly when your opponent's going to be coming along, and those 2 medevacs will be able to get away in the main for now. Nerchio going to be maxed out pretty soon, but there's just so much here for MVP at this point.
MVP sieging up. MVP is dangerously close to that creep line. There is a lot of Zerg units on all angles. I'm not actually sure how MVP was able to have this few units and still be this close to max, and he's still pushing forward. Oh, a big blunder on the timing for MVP. This is just what Nerchio needs to step back into this game. Just gets smoked in a matter of seconds.
A great little surround there by Nerchio. He's not done yet. He's going to chase this army all the way home. Oh, but actually pulling back for now. Wants to be able to try and hit the 4th base that is already up and running, or even just attack down that angle anyway. And it looks like MVP setting himself up for the defense.
And will he engage? He does. Where's the fungal growth? Nabs a front line. Tanks instantly target fire the cluster of those infestors. Some unbelievable fungal growth dealing massive damage, but MVP does a big drop in the back of the main base.
He's going to be able to take out a lot of this tech if he wants to, but the Zergling's actually able to pick up for now. Meanwhile, that push at the front being cleaned up by the reinforcing bio. He's actually trying to transition into Ravens whilst all this is going on. And look at the Sim City. Nerchio working against him. Nice fungal growth on that drop, and he will get it with all the Zerglings.
The Greater Spire does manage to stay alive. Close call for Nerchio thus far.
Yeah, this is getting a little scary. I mean, he's constantly pushing forwards here. Once again with some bio, catching some infestors down to the south. The Zergling's trying to help out, but he gets the last infestor. 5 more in production, but he's only got 1 infestor out right now. Losing those big gas units is so costly for Nerchio, who is not yet established on his 4th base properly.
God, this game is so back and forth, Kalaris. Right now, Nerchio, the one at a deficit, trying to take his 5th base as Ravens begin to pile up. This choice to go for the Greater Spire is going to start increasingly concerning me. Now MVP dropping this hatch at the far right.
It's such a difficult position for Nerchio to be in, but he's actually trying to make the most of it here with these Zergling run-bys. Nice little move in, does force the cancel on that 5th, but meanwhile the Zerglings get cleaned up in the 4th.
I mean, these Zerglings are just doing some damage, but not nearly enough. MVP's gone into the huge macro mode. He has a lot of barracks with tech labs, which is a sign of a Terran who's really trying to value that later gameplay. A little bit of Overlord puking on the low ground. And, you know, normally I'd kind of just think, yeah, this is definitely Terran's game. Look at the supply count, look at the base count, and sort of, you know, blow the rest of it off. But right now, with the size of the map, it's so difficult for someone to really exploit this edge because the distances are so large. So Nerchio actually does have quite a bit of time to relax and breathe, but MVP is trying to minimize that time by doing these kind of drops.
MVP had a really nice income lead there as well for a good portion of time. It's dissipated now because the mules have actually fallen away. But once again, just dropping over at this 5th location, taking out so quickly here. MVP looking phenomenal. It looks like he's going to go for the push. Out, he closes the gap here with the roaches so quickly. A lovely fungal growth on the back against those Marines, but there's too much bio here for him to continue laying those fungals down.
Oh, MVP just surrounds the Zerg army with Marine Marauder, picking off all the remaining infestors. An MVP who asked for your cheers at the start of the game. It looks like it is paying off as Nerchio is being pulled every which way. Cannot seem to defend against this varied aggression from MVP.
Yeah, that drop now still was doing a little bit of damage in the 4th of Nerchio, killing 1 or 2 drones off, but Nerchio being able to deal with that with those Zerglings. And he's actually doing quite a bit of damage with those roaches, but that gets cleaned up as well in his opponent's 4th. And for now, though, I mean, Nerchio he has a lot of gas backed up. He's producing tons and tons of Zerglings. Wow. And he has the Great Aspire. He's not making any Corruptors or Broodlords to be able to go for this. He had like 60 Lings in production there.
That's actually kind of crazy, the fact that both players only killed off about 15 workers each. Given the amount of drops that has happened in either player's base, I mean, the amount of drops that have happened over here at the right side from this very medevac is staggering in its own.
We have Neural Parasite, 8 more Infestors on the way. I guess he wants to try and nab those Ravens if he can do. Against Terran, Ravens are actually pretty good if you're able to get the Hunter Seeker Missile off because, oh, actually, nice little fungal there. But again, Terran clumps up so much. So if you're able to get that Neural Parasite and that Seeker, it will be rather good. But the Seeker Missile, oh, nice control there,
There's the Seeker Missile, pulling it back at the last second. A couple infested Terrans pop up.
Oh, he's trying to pick out the Zerglings. Picks up a few of them, but at the same time, those Vikings moving forward.
MVP, an army of doom stepping in. The perfect fungals, the happy face from Nerchio. And it looks like GG!
Ladies and gentlemen, LGIM's MVP is the champion of the Intel Extreme Masters Gamescom here for 2012, the first stop in the Intel Extreme Masters list. Wow.
Having come from the open bracket, he crushed through it, winning his bracket, performed brilliantly, winning first in his group, and then crushed through all his opponents to get here, defeating Vortex, defeating Nerchio here in the finals, and getting the chance to avenge the death of Nesty.
Yeah, everyone was pegging these two to be some of the favorites here coming into this tournament, and LGIM's MVP did not disappoint. But as well, guys, a big round of applause for Aces Nerchio for a phenomenal tournament run.
Gosh, I mean, as Nerchio, you just can't possibly feel bad about that run. But without any further ado, I'm going to throw it up to Jarrett on the main stage to interview our winner, MVP.
2012 Intel Extreme Masters Gamescom champion, LGIM MVP. How do you feel now that you are a champion again?
기분 어떤지 지금 우승해서 기분 어떤지. 제가 IEM은 처음 나온 건데 이렇게 IEM에서 우승할 수 있게 돼서 너무 기쁘고 다음에도 또 IEM 하면 또 오고 싶을 정도로 너무 좋았어요.
Well, it's his first IEM, and he's really happy that he won it, and he will try his best to come to the next IEM as well.
Did you expect to meet Nerchio in the final? And what did you think of your opponent?
결승전 가서 네아치오 만날 건지 생각했는지 여기 오기 전에, 그리고 네아치오 어떻게 생각하는지 실력대로.
솔직히 그 8강 전부터 너치오 선수가 결승에 올 것 같았어요. 그래가지고 결승은 너치오 선수일 것 같다고 생각했는데 이렇게 예상대로 올라오셨고, 그리고 워낙 잘하시는 분이라 굉장히 힘들었는데 그래도 운도 많이 따라주고 이번에 게임도 잘 돼서 이길 수 있었던 것 같아요.
Well, before the round of 8, he kind of expected Nerchio to advance to the finals, and it came so. And Nerchio is a really good player, and he thinks that MVP himself that he got kind of lucky, and that the strategies that he made, that it went fluently.
You are the most consistent and the most winningest player in StarCraft 2 history. What's your secret? What separates you from the rest?
우승 제일 많이 했는데 이때까지 스타투 선수들 중에서 그 왜 그런지 뭐 어떤 뭐 비밀 있는지 뭐
비밀은 딱히 없고 그냥 저에게 뭐 행운 같은 게 오면 제가 잘 잡는 것 같아요. 운이 좋은 사람이 우승도 할 수 있다고 생각하고 운도 따라줘야 우승할 수 있다고 생각하기 때문에 그 운을 제가 잘 잡은 것 같아요.
Well, actually, he thinks there's no big secret behind it. He just thinks that the guy who's like, I mean, you need luck in this game as well. And if you have that luck, it's like, then you can win, and you can win tournaments. And he's like kind of like lucky most of the time.
Luck. I think it's talent. You have so many fans outside of Korea, and the forums today were exploding and showing that love. For one last time, what would you like to say to them all?
분들한테 말할 거 있는 거 말해줘.
제가 IEM 처음 참가했는데 너무 팬분들이 되게 환호도 많이 해주시고 응원도 너무 많이 해주셔서 너무 감사드리고 평생 잊지 못할 것 같아요.
Well, it's his first IEM, like you said, and it's the first time that he's like outside, that he's in Europe. So it's like really nice that there are so many people cheering and supporting him, and he will never forget that.
It's great. Once again, congratulations on your victory. Good luck in the future. Can't wait for next year. MVP. Who is an MVP? We'll be back after a short break for the award ceremony. Okay. Noobs! So what'd you think? Did you have fun? Do you know who this guy is? This is Carmack. He's been around a very long time, and he is, maybe not entirely, but very responsible for how awesome this event is and probably its existence. So please give him a big round of applause. to say something?
Yes, first of all, guys, thanks for being here. It's been wonderful, thanks to you, all of you, and everybody who tuned in to the streams. It's been fantastic. I think it's been a great great start to the season. We've done a lot of changes. I hope you liked it. I would also like the entire crew that worked really, really hard on making this happen. All the players that came here, commentators, Kalaris, Day 9, Tasteless, Artosis. This guy, although he's very, very awkward.
This guy.
Please, big round of applause for Jared.
Oh, thanks, man.
And without making it a mutual adoration society, let's bring on to the stage the three kings, the guys from companies that help make this possible. That would be the Suits, that would be George from Intel, it will be Mark, the esports manager from Blizzard, and Johnny from Patriot. Please give them a round of applause as well. Without the help of their companies, we wouldn't be here, we wouldn't enjoy such great games. So thank you guys as well from me. Jared?
We're going to bring out our runner-up. Please give a really warm welcome. He went so far and he's so good. Acer Nerchio.
And before Nerchio gets the check, I would like to announce that the community, the public, has selected him to be the sick nerd baller of the tournament, which basically means that he will receive a bunch of goodies from our partners, and also later on, as opposed to last season, later on we will create a personalized hoodie for you, especially to commemorate the fact that in Cologne you were the sick nerd baller. So let me just quickly jump backstage and get your goodies out.
You're sick, you're a nerd, and you're a baller, man. That's what the community decided. Oh, wow.
So, this is an XL Series BenQ monitor, an Intel Core i7 processor Extreme Edition, and the limited edition RAM by Intel Extreme Masters, created by Patriot. So some wonderful stuff. And as I said, we'll contact you. We'll create an individual hoodie for you to commemorate this event. So, to give the check for second place, Johnny, would you do the honors?
I was going to do that. Sorry. Presenting the trophy for second place, Carmack from the ESL.
Następnym razem oczko wyżej, Artur.
Okay. All right. I'll help you carry your stuff.
You're not the strongest nerd, Jared.
And let's bring out our champion, MVP, Team LG IEM. And presenting the check for first place, Mark from Blizzard. Presenting the trophy for first place, George the Suit from Intel. Guys, get in the shot. Not me. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And so concludes the 2012 Intel Extreme Masters at Gamescom. Thank you so much for supporting this tournament, for supporting Starcraft 2, for supporting esports. I hope I'll see you all next year. I hope the crowd's even bigger, and I hope the games are even better. Lots of love.